Why not?
Because I look terrible.
We're live.
Hey, hey! Yep.
I don't know. We hit a little bit of a snafu this week. I think we're okay, though.
Yep, it's tracking.
Okay.
Hey.
I don't know.
Hi, Zizzy.
Hi, babies.
Daphne wants to say hi.
Hi, babies.
Okay. Sissy, you want to come say hi? Come here. Come here.
Come over here. We're about to get into the house that Jack built. Inmates. I don't know. Well, nobody's on watching us yet.
Okay. I'm pulling up live now.
Okay. See if you can hear us. You may have to go into the other room.
Okay.
So apparently YouTube has just implemented a new rule where we cannot stream live from our mobile devices unless we have 1,000 subscribers. We are nowhere near 1,000 subscribers. So until then, Inky Binky Boo's in the house. Hey, Brianna.
Hey-o.
Breezy, can you hear me right now?
I'm clear. I hear you out there.
Yeah? Okay. I guess we're good then. My lovely assistant, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi.
Hi. So tell your friends. Get them to subscribe.
Yeah, Breezy, tell your friends to subscribe to the channel so we can go back to streaming from my cell phone instead of the laptop. Miss Daphne, she did the baby. Hi, babies.
Yep, okay.
Thanks, Breezy. We're about to get into your dad's right here, by the way.
Have fun.
I'm gonna scoot in
thanks.
here a sec.
We're about to get into a very silly movie
All right.
after we get rearranged here.
Okay.
Let's see if we can somehow. The video quality is not nearly as good.
No, as you move, it gets a little.
Yeah. So everybody hold extremely still. The House that Jack Built, 2018. Not a very good movie.
Not at all.
Okay, see you next week.
Bye. All right, move this back in.
It's Lars von Trier, inmates. What are we? We're talking about Antichrist. What else? Melancholia. If anybody saw that one? Nymphomania, volumes 1 and 2, which is interesting. Not afraid to show hardcore penetration, this guy. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing in the horror world. I'll take it. I'll take some penetration. I'll take it. Any way I can get it, buddy. Hey-o.
Hey-o.
Let me grab a microphone and then we'll get this party started.
All right.
Oh, man.
All right, we got 2 people in, but I don't know who the second person is.
Okay.
Thanks.
Because this is the house that Jack built. I feel like I look skinnier on the webcam than I did on my cell phone. A little bit? No?
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe it's just the lighting? I don't know. I feel like this webcam isn't doing anything for me. I want to go back to my cell phone. I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. Did you watch We Are the Flesh?
Yeah.
What'd you think of that? Speaking of hardcore penetration.
Right.
Whoa, hey there. Was not expecting that.
Oh, Daily's watching us, looking good.
Hi, honey. Thanks for straightening us out. Straightening us out in here. All right, you guys ready to talk about a Lars von Trier classic with The House That Jack Built? I'm not into it. 2.5 hours long. That's like
really long.
It's like The Godfather, except not nearly as interesting.
Right?
All right, whatever. Let's finish this. Let's get this over with, inmates.
Yeah.
Mic's on.
Yep.
All right, inmates, we're talking about The House That Jack Built. This is from 2017. It's written and directed by the Lars von Trier. Stars Matt Dillon, Uma Thurman, and Jeremy Davies, and a whole slew of European people that I'm not all that familiar with. This is a 2.5 hour long opus of boring, I think is the best way to describe it.
Monotone voice the entire way.
Monotone voice, but I mean, you got to really be in the mood for a Lars von Trier situation. Have you've seen other Lars von Trier movies?
I can't say that I have.
Did you see Antichrist?
Okay, yeah.
Have you seen that? Speaking of hardcore penetration, there's that. There's Melancholia, Nymphomania 1 and 2, Dogville. They're always like these big, long, sweeping epics.
Yeah.
What this one boils down to, inmates, is a serial killer story. Matt Dillon, of course, playing the titular role of Jack, and he is going to be recounting 5 incidents that led him down the path of serial killerhood, for lack of a better term. Let me get my son's water bottle out of here. Little Ninja Turtle action for you there.
Blame it on your son.
Totally his water bottle. Giving away my secrets. So the movie actually picks up, and I thought this was kind of interesting, with just a black screen and a conversation that we're overhearing between 2 people. One of them being Jack, and the other one being a mysterious older European guy. He goes by the name Virgil. And I think that's supposed to be some kind of a reference to Dante's Inferno or something like that. Not 100% sure. I never read Dante's Inferno. But they're going somewhere. You hear them walking, and then you hear them like slushing through water and stuff like that. The screen is completely black. And Jack is recounting to him 5 incidents that led him down the path that he's on now. Now, right off the bat, I kind of got the idea that he was either A, being led to hell, or B, being led to like a execution chamber. Yeah. Is that what you got to?
Yeah, that's what I got to.
All right. Because he's basically like confessing his sins as they go. So that kind of makes sense. All right. So we're going to pick right up with the first incident. Jack is right. I get the feeling that this whole story took place like in the early 80s.
Yeah, it seemed that way.
He's got like the Jeffrey Dahmer glasses. I don't know if that's just a serial killer thing or if that's part of the period that this is supposed to be in.
I think the period because of what he looked like later.
We're talking about The House That Jack Built. So he's got like this, it's like a Volkswagen van. It's red, and it's got the windows blacked out. That's strike 1 and strike 2, if you ask me.
Yeah.
He's in a van. I used to drive a van for work, and the windows were blacked out, but I had nothing but tools back there.
That's what they all say.
No, I'm saying, yeah. And the occasional prostitute.
Oh, okay. Well, got to have one of those.
Yeah, well, it's long. It's an 8-hour shift, buddy.
Right.
What's a guy going to do? Anyway, he's driving down the road. He's like up in the hills, and it's forest on both sides of the roads. He comes to a broken down vehicle. Out pops Uma Thurman, who, by the way, I think still looks very good for her age.
Yeah, she does.
She's like, hey, I'm having car problems. Can you help me out? He looks and he sees that she just has a flat tire. So he's like, well, you flat tire. She's like, yeah, I know, but my jack doesn't work. And he's like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't have a jack. And she's like, well, you have to help me. I mean, this jack doesn't work. And he's like, yeah, the little spinny piece is broken. So well, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't have a jack. I can't help you. And she's like, okay, well, just give me a ride somewhere where I can either buy a new jack or get some help. So he takes her to his friend Smithy, who is some kind of a blacksmith or metal worker or something. And he fixes the jack. Now, the thing is, though, is that as soon as Uma Thurman gets in his car, she immediately starts talking about how he probably is a serial killer.
Yeah.
Correctamundo. Now, the conversation doesn't end there, though. As they're driving to the place,
No, actually, this is before he became one.
Yeah. But, I mean, she's like basically giving him a step-by-step guide on what he should do.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're out here in the hills, and you could kill me and bury me, and nobody would ever find me. And he's like, this bitch is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even want to. I mean, you can tell he's not a social person to begin with, but, like, he's just not wanting to talk to her or like engage her in any way. He's just really thinking about getting her out of the van so he can go on about his business.
She's a bit of a nut job herself.
Bit of a bitch is what I would say. So that goes on. He takes her to the smithy guy. She gets her jack fixed, no pun intended. Brings her back to her own car, and she's like, "Okay, I'm gonna change my tire now." She gets out and starts spinning the jack, and it snaps off again.
Mhm.
So he's like, "Okay, well, I don't have time to take you back to Smithy, so I'm just gonna get out of here." And she's like, "You can't leave me here." And she immediately runs and gets in his van
Yeah.
without like him giving any kind of consent or permission or yeah, I'm gonna help you or anything.
I did like the way he said, "Oh, maybe the next serial killer will go and pick you up."
Yeah, that's like the only iota of humor we're gonna get out of this movie.
Mhm.
So she's like, "Oh well, fuck. I mean, I guess I can't leave her here, and she's already in my car, so now I got to drive her back to Smithy's place." So he's driving her up there, and again, she starts with the serial killer talk, and he's like, "Just whatever." And then eventually she's like, "Oh, I know you're not a serial killer. You're way too much of a wimp." And that's when he slams on the brake, takes the jack that he was about to get fixed for her, and cracks her right in the face with it
Whew.
5 or 6 times.
Yeah,
Now, to Lars von Trier's credit,
that was pretty cool.
we do get to see like every inch of that, like the
Yeah.
whack, whack, whack,
Mhm.
and like the sounds and the blood coming out is pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Needless to say, kills Uma Thurman, whose name I don't think we ever learned in the course of that conversation.
I'll just go with bitch.
Not that it fucking hurts. Yeah, that's a wise assessment. So that is incident number 1. That whole segment that I just walked you through, probably about 45 minutes.
Right?
Whew. All right. So now we continue. We go back to the black screen and we hear them talking and stuff like this. Now we're going to learn a little bit more about Jack. Alan's
Hey,
in the
Alan.
house. What's up, Alan? We're going to learn a little bit more about Jack. He is an engineer and he is also a budding architect in a weird way. He bought a plot of land next to a lake and he's planning on building a house, thus the name of the movie, the house that Jack built, on the lake. So his first attempt at building it, and I think he's trying to build it all by himself,
That's what it seemed like. Yeah.
is he's going to use cinder block. I don't know anything about house building or carpentry at all, so I'll sign off on that.
Mhm.
Cinder block is what it is. So you notice this thing keeps like
Dropping.
yeah, I have to fuck with it like every 5 minutes. Should probably tighten it up or something. Anyway, so we learn about that. We learn about his childhood. There's a very disturbing scene of him cutting off the. Hey, Jim's in the house. What's up, Jim?
Hey, Jim.
Bruno Ganz portrayed the best Hitler in any movie ever. That's true.
Mhm.
Bruno Ganz, I believe, played Virgil.
Virgil.
Yeah. So yeah, he's pretty good. He's good at playing people that escort you to hell and dictators. I guess it's kind of typecast in those two. Those two rules specifically roles is what I'm looking for. All right. Anyway, you're not helping me at all. You know that. just sit, he's here. He's the eye candy, Jim.
He just died?
He did.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
2015, 16, something like that.
Oh.
Anyway, so now we get to learn more about Jack. He's building this house. He's very excited about that. We learn some shit about his childhood. You see him cut the leg off a duckling and let it swim. He's torturing animals is what he's doing. He's a piece of shit,
That was
this guy.
brutal.
It was. Yeah. And then he throws it back in the water and it's just spinning around in circles. I thought that was some kind of an homage to Don't Torture a Duckling, the Giallo.
Mhm.
It's not. It had nothing to do with that.
No?
But so we're learning that Jack is more or less a sociopath, as if we didn't already know. From there, we go to incident number 2. Now, incident number 2 is where things start to escalate quite a bit. Torture people, not animals. I agree completely, Jim.
Mhm.
Incident number 2, he basically just shows up at a random lady's house, knocks on the door, and she's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, he's not a good liar.
No,
and he's not. Hey, Shelley, he's not a good actor either. I mean,
hey, Shell.
Matt Dillon is a good actor. Jack is not. Because, like, I don't know how this lady didn't register to her. Well, I think it did. But as soon as he started throwing dollar signs around, she's like, "Yeah, come on in."
Yeah, first he said he was a cop.
First he said,
detective?
yeah. First he's like, "I'm a cop," and he's just like looking past her at items in her house, and he sees like a shopping bag, and he's like, "You do your shopping at Smith's Pharmacy there, okay? Do you mind if I come in and talk about it?" And she's like, "Can I see your badge?" And he's like, That's exactly what we were hoping you would say, because
Yeah.
you shouldn't let anybody in if they don't have a badge. And,
It's actually
Yeah.
being like
and
in
then
a
he's like,
shop or something.
yeah, and then he's like, it's being rebadged. They're adding some commendations to it.
because I got promoted.
Yeah, I'm actually a really good cop.
Yeah.
So, and she's like,
Not
I don't,
buying it.
no, I don't know about this, man. So after that story falls through, he's like, okay, I'm actually a insurance adjuster,
Mhm.
and I'm here to talk to you about your what was it?
Husband's pension.
Well, yeah.
something?
First, he starts off with like he said that the cops asked him to pull the cop routine
Oh yeah,
first, because that makes sense.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Hey, we're with the local police department. Would you mind just going door to door and impersonating a police officer, see if anybody lets you in? That makes a lot of fucking
Oh, yeah.
sense. But like we just said, as soon as he says, well, I can double your pension, then she's like, oh yeah, come on in.
Mhm.
I'll make you some tea. He gets in there, and it gets even more awkward from there, because as soon as he walks in, he immediately starts talking about how humiliating it
Yeah.
was for him to have to stand out there and deal with her, and what a pain in the ass this job is, and oh, I hate this job. And he's getting very violent. Like, he's not violent towards her, but he's like getting very animated and like,
The tone of
"Whoa,
his voice.
I hate it. Whoa, I hate this job." And
You want me to get you some tea?
yeah, and she's like, you know what? I think I'll go get you some tea. She starts to leave the room, and then he grabs her and like throws her on the ground and chokes her out.
Mhm.
This is weird. This part is kind of weird, because he chokes her out, and then he's like, oh, what am I going to do? And then she kind of comes to, just like that.
Yeah.
Just like that, except without the beard here.
Yeah. She wasn't a bearded
She was
lady.
not the bearded lady. I can attest to that. So after that, he's like, oh, what am I going to do? And he's like, oh, he like tries to apologize to
Yeah.
her. He's like,
How can I make this right?
I'm going to get you some water or something. And then he gets like some crackers and a cup of water and starts sticking them down her throat. And I thought he was trying to cover his tracks, like make it look like she choked to death on the
Yeah, I did too at
crackers or
first.
something. But then he's like, man, I'll just stab you in the heart.
Boom.
And then blood comes spurting out. And he's like, ooh, what the fuck? So from there, he gets all panicky, and we find out that he actually has like debilitating OCD. He has like this thing about he cannot leave a room that's dirty. He has to go back and clean it, which is pretty gnarly.
Mhm.
So he's like, okay, he bundles the body all up, gets ready. Takes it out to the van, just leaves it outside the van for right now. It's going to come into play in a minute. He's like getting ready to leave, gets in the van, and then he gets like this vision of blood being under the rug. So now he has to go back inside, check under the rug. Rug's fine. He wipes it all down again, goes back to his van, and he's like, okay, I'm going to leave. And then he gets a vision of blood being like behind the posters or the pictures on the wall.
Mhm.
So he has to go back inside, check behind all the pictures on the wall, wipes it all down again, and then he goes to leave, and then he's like, gets back in his van, and he's like, oh, maybe gets a vision of like blood being underneath the chair legs. So he has to go back in, check under all the chair legs, wipe everything down again. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go now. As he's leaving, though, the sirens are coming. The cops are on the way. They pull up just as he's getting in his van to leave.
It's like, oh crap.
And he's like, oh shit. So cop gets out. He's like, hey, what are you doing here? And he's like, just waiting for Claire, the lady that he just killed. And he's like, well, we got a report of a break-in down the street. Did you see anything weird? And he's like, and again, terrible liar. And hey, Monica's watching us. Monica.
Hey, Monica.
The house that Jack built.
Really?
You're making us do this alone, huh?
Set us up.
So again, he's a terrible liar. So he's like, officer, I think we have a bigger problem because
yeah, you better be sorry.
Yeah, you better be sorry, Monica. Motherfucker. He's like, Claire's not here, and I've been waiting for 2 hours, and I thought I heard like a commotion inside, and what the fuck is he doing?
Yeah.
Does he want to get caught? Apparently he wants to get caught, because he now goes back inside with the cop to look around. So that's what they do. They go inside, and then he like starts berating the cop, and you better take this very seriously because Claire is my dear friend. And he makes up this whole backstory about wanting like issues of a Train magazine that her husband, a friend of her husband's or some shit. And the cop's like, well, we'll look into it, but right now there's somebody's breaking into houses and stuff. Monica always has to work late during the worst movies. You're exactly right, honey.
That's right.
Funny that, isn't it? We put on Massacre at aisle 12 and she's here like that. Anyway, he's playing this fucking game with the cop where he's like telling getting on the cop about, you got to take this seriously and I know my rights and blah, blah, blah. And eventually the cop's like, all right, I'm just going to go, you crazy bitch, get out of here. So he leaves, and once he drives off, we realize that he actually tied the body to the back of the van, and he's now dragging it down the street behind him at speeds of like 40, 50 miles an hour, wrecking the fucking body in the process, and leaving a giant trail of blood and flesh and other parts from Claire's house all the way back to where he's going. We're going to find out that he actually rented or I guess he rented a freezer, like an industrial freezer in a warehouse, which he just kept like a year's supply of pizza in up to this point. Strange that. Anyway, he gets the body back to the warehouse, and he's like, oh, he just unwraps it, and of course, like everything from the face, like the whole front is just gone from being dragged through the streets naturally. So that sucks. I mean, it sucks for the body, but as soon as he stops and he like unwraps the body, he looks back and sees the big trail of blood, and it immediately starts raining. Like a big torrential downpour, wipes all the blood off the street.
How convenient.
Yeah, he's like, I saw this as divine providence, and that God was telling me that I needed to continue my work.
That's right.
All right, so he takes the body in the freezer, and that's pretty much incident number 2. Right? Did I miss anything?
Nope.
All right, so now in between incidents, we get more dialogue between him and Virgil. He's talking about his house. Cinder block wasn't working out because it wasn't moving the way that he wanted it to or something like that. So he tore all the cinder block down, and now he's going to try and build the house out of wood. Very nice. Now we cut to incident number 3.
Whew.
This one is a little rough.
Yeah, this is a rough one. That's for sure.
All right, so now I don't know how much time is passing between these incidents, and it's not really overtly stated, but I have to assume at least a couple of years, and there's got to be some more killings happening between the big incidents that he's telling us about. So incident number 3 pops up. He's out in the woods. He is now, I guess he is dating a woman with 2 kids. Is that what you got? Or did he just run into them?
I think he just ran into them.
He might have just ran into them because there's not a lot of conversation going on.
No.
He might have just ran into them, but there's like a weird area in the woods by his house where he likes to go and do some target practice. And he's got like
he's a big old rifle.
Yeah, he's not a hunter, but he's got like animal targets set up so he can shoot at them and practice with that. I'm disappointed in the show tonight. You guys are reviewing a real movie with real actors and a real director. What's up with the sudden bump up in the standards? Jim, this movie is boring as shit.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm sorry. There are brief glimpses of like entertainment value in this movie, but for the most part, it's just a monotone Matt Dillon talking about how much he hates everybody.
Yeah.
It is for 2.5 hours, sir. I do not understand the appeal of that. I mean, there's some very attractive aesthetics in the movie. Lars von Trier is great at that. He has like a very oil painting abstract, what he does with the colors and the frames and all that shit. But God, sitting through this, whew,
there are some good parts in it.
There are, but in between the good parts is like an hour and a half of nothing. It will make you feel like a banana, I feel.
Who picked
this one? It was Hammer. Hammer picked this one, babe. Anyway, so now we're off to incident number 3. He's got like a target stand set up out in the woods, complete with like a sniper tower type of a thing. He goes up there and he shoots at his animal targets, but he prefaces this by saying he's not a hunter.
Right.
He finds the practice distasteful, and why would you kill an animal and stuff like that? It's fine. I get that.
But here, put on these red hats.
Yeah, here's red hats to make sure that nobody else shoots at you, or so we think.
Right.
So now he's kind of having this bonding moment with this woman and her 2 kids. He's explaining to the kids, weapon safety, things like that. It's very nice.
Mhm.
He takes one of the kids up to the sniper tower, and he's like, "Okay, you wanna try my rifle here? Take a shot at one of the targets?" And the kid's like, "Yeah." So he lines up the target, and he lets the kid squeeze the trigger, and he hits one of the targets. It's
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
And almost immediately after that, we cut to a completely different situation.
Oh yeah.
Suddenly, the mom and her 2 kids are like huddled behind some deadfall, and Jack is up in the sniper tower shooting at 'em. It's like an episode of American Gladiators with the tennis ball gun. You remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Except this isn't nearly as much fun.
No.
This is not fun at
No.
all. And the kid, they're basically pinned down, and he's shooting at them like sniper style, wanting to kill them. Obviously.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much what he does. I mean, we're talking about a woman probably in her 50s, kids probably 12, 10 to 12, and then a
Yeah.
younger one who's probably
7.
6 or 7, somewhere in there. So the young one gets rattled and just takes off running, and of course
yeah.
he shoots him right through the leg, and basically just shoots the leg right off him because it's a very high power rifle.
Mm.
Once the kid is down, he of course pumps a couple more rounds into him. The mom is screaming and freaking out, so she just kind of goes into knee jerk mode and goes hauling ass over to the kid that's already dead. She's crouched over him, screaming and crying. The other kid pops his head up, and then that's when Matt or Jack hits him with a headshot high power rifle. And that's pretty. Both the kids are dead, and that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
So, excuse me. From there, we immediately then cut to another situation where they're having a picnic, and Jack is like telling the mom about how he believes he didn't get enough pie as a kid, and he believes his childhood would have been much better if he'd had more pie, and she should probably give her boys more pie. So now he's got the dead kids like propped up with twigs and branches and shit.
Yeah.
What the fuck? And he's making the mom feed the dead kids pie.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? That's gnarly, and of course she's shaken, and she's just kind of in shock, and she's trying to stick pie in her dead son's mouth.
Mm.
And then out of nowhere, Jack's like, "What is your favorite number?" She says 12, and he says, "Okay."
Mhm.
And he counts to 12 and makes his way up to the sniper tower.
Get to running.
And then she's supposed to take off running, but really she's in too much shock, so she just kind of limps off. And then of course he
Yeah.
shoots her, and then she rolls into a ditch. He goes down there and finishes her off.
Mhm.
That's incident number 3. That was probably
The roughest one.
the gut punch of the
Yeah.
movie. I mean, things don't get any better from here, but that was pretty rough.
Mm.
So now we get some more dialogue between Jack and Virgil, and he's talking about how things should have been different in his life, and he understands why he's going wherever he's going and things like that. Now we're going to cut right to incident number 4. This one is a tremendous waste of time, but there are boobies involved. So
and dislocated boobies.
and they're not where they should be.
No.
Creative use of boobies. I'll give you that, Mr. Von Trier.
Mhm.
So now we're going to cut to, I guess, a few years later, and the body count has gone up yet again. And now Jack has himself a girlfriend, I think.
I thought she was more like a
Female.
prostitute or something.
They're acquainted in some degree, right?
It was weird.
It's a very strange relationship, whatever's going on. He shows up at her apartment, and
Mhm.
she is obviously very distraught from the get-go. And I should mention off the top that her apartment is in a very bad neighborhood, apparently, because there's a cop waiting outside.
It reminded me of a motel.
It could have been a motel, some kind of a shady drug motel, something like that. So he shows up, and now he's got this scam where he's walking with a crutch to fool people into thinking he's like weak or harmless in some way. And he's got that going on. He shows up at her apartment, and she's obviously distraught from the get-go.
Mhm.
So he's like, "Hey, what's the matter? What's going on with you?" And she's like, "I'm afraid you're gonna leave me." And he's like, I'm never gonna leave you. Don't worry about it. I think he doesn't. He goes from showing like a lot of affection for this young lady to immediately berating her like on a dime.
Yeah.
So like when he first walks in, she's like, "I can't look at you." So in a very cutesy move, he goes and gets a phone and goes into the other room and then calls her and they have like a phone conversation from room
Yeah.
to room. It's cute. It's very sweet. But
Very
once
weird.
it's weird. But this is the whole fucking movie, man.
Yeah.
Eventually, she's like, "Okay, just come talk to me, come sit with me." So as soon as he goes into the room with her, he immediately starts telling her how stupid she is, and he refers to her as Simple,
Mhm.
like that's her name, like, "Hey, Simple." Um, at one point, he's like, "I'm a serial killer. I've killed 60 people," and she's like, "Oh God, what are you talking about?" But then he says, "I've killed 61 people," and she's like, "A minute ago, you said 60," and he's like, "Does it matter? Does anything matter? Simple." And then we get this. It's just a lot of weird dialogue. It's almost like watching a rodeo in a way because he's just hopping from one thing to the next, and she's
Mhm.
trying to hold on as he's going from weird topic to weird topic. Eventually, like she gets the idea that something is weird. Like he pulls her shirt down and her boobs come out, and he gets a magic marker and he makes like incision lines around her boobs.
Mhm.
And she's cool with this. She's just standing there and it's kind of sexy, I think, or something.
Yeah. How weird
I don't know.
foreplay is that?
Yeah, well, I imagine with this nutsack, she's probably used to it.
Mhm.
But eventually, she's like, "That's this. He's really starting to scare me." So
Yeah.
she just jumps up, bolts out of the front door, and hauls ass downstairs, where there's a cop. The same cop is still waiting. So she goes running out there, starts yelling at the cop. "My boyfriend is acting really weird, and he said he's a serial killer, and I don't know what to do.
And killed 60
Because he
people.
killed 61 people." And almost immediately after that, here comes Jack walking down the stairs, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a serial killer. I killed 61 people."
Acting like he was totally wasted.
Yeah, he's like, "I don't, and I've been terrible to this young lady here. I've treated her badly, and I am the worst boyfriend ever."
And fakes falling over to the side.
Yeah, and then the cop basically is like, "Hey, you guys should stop drinking for the night and go ahead and clear on out of here. I don't care where you go." So it's kind of like a Jeffrey Dahmer moment,
Yeah.
like when the cops took his little boyfriend back to him.
Mhm.
So the cop just moves on and leaves them there together. But because Jack is now in his affectionate phase, this young lady, whatever her name is, she's like, "Oh, it's okay. I forgive you. Come upstairs." So they go back upstairs, and this time Jack, the door on this apartment, because I guess it's a shitty neighborhood, locks from both sides. So once you can throw the deadbolt, but like you can lock yourself in with a key. So once they get inside, Jack locks the door and takes the keys,
Mhm.
and she notices that, and she's like, "Where's my keys?" And then again, he starts berating her and calling her stupid and things like that. And
Mhm.
we get a very long, drawn out situation in which she kind of comes to the conclusion that he is, in fact, a serial killer.
Yeah.
Mr. Sophistication is what he's been calling himself in the newspapers. And she's in big trouble. So he's like, "Yeah, I'm probably going to kill you. And by the way, I don't need this cane. I've been using that to fool people. And I'm going to go ahead and kill you. So if you want to scream or something, go right ahead." So she starts screaming.
So
And
does he.
of course, nobody comes to help. So he starts screaming too, and still nobody comes to help. And then big struggle. He ties her up, puts like a phone cord in her mouth, I think,
Mhm.
and then he just strangles her. No, he doesn't strangle. He like strangles her for a little bit, cuts her boobs off.
Yeah.
And that part is a little graphic because you can like see him lift and then cut underneath, and you see the flesh tear away
Ugh.
from the boobies. That is mistreatment of boobies. That's not how I handle my boobies.
No.
That's not how you should handle your boobies.
Unless you're putting bigger ones on.
Unless you are a skilled surgeon and you are being paid to handle the boobies in such a fashion.
That's right.
So anyway, after he kills her, obviously removes her breasts. He's got this thing about taking pictures of his victims and
Mhm.
like posing them in provocative things. He then sends those pictures to the newspaper signs it Mr. Sophisticated, and that's how he's come to be known as the serial killer of the area.
Okay.
So that's all well and good. I mean, it sucks, but whatever. As he's leaving, he takes one of her breasts and sticks it
on the car.
on the cop car, like underneath the windshield wiper, like he wrote him a ticket, but with a booby.
Yeah.
That's kind of creepy. And then he kept the other booby and made it into a wallet type of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's pretty gnarly. That was incident number 4. Now we're cutting to incident number 5, and this is where things get a little weird. We get more. He's got like this montage that he's building with all the negatives of the pictures that he took of the people he killed, which is great. And we see that there's a lot more victims than were being shown, and that's fine. We expected that. His big scam now is that he wants to. He's built himself in that walk-in freezer a kind of a harness and a tripod situation. And what he wants to do is experiment with a Nazi-style execution that was actually apparently implemented on the Eastern Front during World War II, in which the Nazis could execute 6 or 7 prisoners with 1 bullet at one time. So he built this harness, and he's kidnapped, like 3 or 4 guys down there to start with. He's kidnapped 3 or 4 guys, and he's keeping them alive in the freezer in this weird harness thing. Now, the way this harness is put together, it's a series of bars in which their heads are tied to one bar, their hands are cuffed behind them, and then hoisted up so that they're basically incapacitated by a second bar that their hands are strapped to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how long these 3 or 4 guys have been down there, but they're freezing, and that really sucks, and they're probably terrified, as they should be. But the way this harness is holding them, their heads are all touching each other. So it's like head to head to head with heads in the middle coming from the other side. This is very difficult for me to explain, obviously, and I'm probably not making any sense right now. But he kidnaps another guy who happens to be a military man, African-American gentleman, brings him down, handcuffs him, puts him in the weird harness thing there, and then starts explaining this whole situation to him. Now, the thing is that he's got himself a high-powered rifle, a 30-06, I believe, and he needs a full metal jacket to achieve the penetration. So what he's thinking he's going to do with all 4 guys, heads lined up the way they are, he should be able to make one headshot and have the bullet pass through all 4 of their heads and kill all 4 of them at the same time with 1 bullet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, give him points for efficiency, if nothing else, right? So that's cool. Brings the African-American guy, puts him in the harness. He explains this whole thing to him, and then he's like, here's the bullet. And then the African-American guy's like, excuse me, sir, I'm a military man. That's not a full metal jacket. So he starts looking at the bullet, and he's like, God damn it, you're right. This is a hunting round. What is this horse shit? So now he's all fired off.
Mm-hmm.
He gets in his weird red 1986 van and goes hauling ass back to the gun shop, which is owned and operated by Jeremy Davies. And he's like, hey, this box of ammunition is mislabeled. It says full metal jacket, but these are clearly animal hunting rounds. And Jeremy Davies is freaking out. He's like, you're right. And I'm sorry. By the way, can I see some ID? And he's like, what? He's losing his shit on Jeremy Davies. He's like, I've been shopping here for years and you never asked me for. The guy's like, I know, but I just, he's like, fine, just sell me 1 bullet, just 1 bullet. And he's like, what do you need just 1 bullet for? And he's like, it's none of your fucking business. He's like, starts breaking shit like in the shop there and knocking stuff off the shelves. It's great. He's like, fine, fuck you. Takes off and he goes to his friend's house. There's a guy by the name of SV. Now, this is where things are starting to get a little weird. I mean, they're already weird, but now they're going to get even weirder. Because he gets to SV's house, which is a dilapidated trailer out in the middle of the woods. And SV is just kind of hanging out in a red robe with a hood. Symbolic, perhaps.
Maybe.
Right? He gets in there. As soon as he walks into SV's trailer, SV pulls a gun on him. And he's like, hey, we need to talk, big boy.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack's like, what's going on? I'm just trying to buy some ammo. He's like, cops have been looking for you. They want to talk to you big time. And they've been hassling me and Jeremy Davies at the gun shop about all this shit. And they think you're tied to some nasty shit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, really, Jack is in one singular frame of mind right now. He just wants to get back to his freezer so he can execute 4 guys at the same time.
Yeah.
And he needs just 1 bullet to do it, apparently. So SV is holding him at gunpoint. He calls the police, as he should. Police are on their way. And Jack's like, you know what? I don't know what you're talking about, but I will sit right here just in case. When the cops get here, I'll talk to them and we'll get this whole thing straightened out. And he's like, okay, great. That's what we're going to do.
Mhm.
Apparently, SV and Jack go back quite a ways. At one point, SV gets up and he's like, Jack, come here. I'm going to give you a hug. And as soon as he leans in, Jack just pulls out a knife and stabs SV right under the chin and into the brain with a big knife. So SV's out. Jack starts going through his stuff, finds himself the Full Metal Jacket 30-06 round that he needs, which is great. But as he's leaving, the cops are rolling up. So Jack's got to think quick.
Yeah.
What he does is he lays SV's body on the floor, puts SV's red robe on, and then points the gun at dead SV as if to say, I'm SV and I'm holding Jack at gunpoint here on the floor. The cops roll in and they're like, oh, good, you got him. Okay, great. Good job, SV. And then Jack just turns around and shoots the cop. Boom, 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 boom. Great. Jack then steals the cop car, still wearing the red robe, which is apparently important for visuals.
Yeah.
And hauls ass back to the freezer. Now, the problem here is that the cop sirens and the cop lights are on the whole time, which is great for making time, but he never turns them off. So once he gets to the freezer, he just leaves the cop car running, sirens and lights and everything, goes hauling ass in there, and now he's like, okay, I'm ready to kill all 4 of you bastards. I got my Full Metal Jacket round. So he loads the rifle, which is pre-positioned on a tripod, and he starts trying to focus in on the African-American guy's head so that he's the African-American guy is the first one that the bullet's going to make contact with.
Right.
So he's like, okay, I'm just going to focus in on you. And he can't because the rifle is too close. He can't focus the scope on it. So he's like, okay, I'm just going to get into this room here. And he's got to break into a side room to get in there to pull the rifle back so he'll be able to focus it. Does that. Well, apparently, he's never been able to get into this side room. It's always been locked. He's tried repeatedly to break into it. It's never worked. He just can't get in there. But this time he gets in.
You went ballistic on that door.
He freaked right out. He freaked right out on the door. He manages to get into the door, pulls the rifle back, and gets the rifle focused. The room on the other side, though, is pitch black. He can't see anything in there. As soon as he gets focused and he's like, hey, I'm ready. I'm going to pull the trigger on these fuckers. The voice of Virgil starts coming from the shadows behind him. Pretty cool. Virgil's like, what do you think you're doing, Jack? And right about now, we're going to cut to outside. The place is now surrounded by cops.
Yep.
And they're beating on the door. Come out with your hands up. And we got the place surrounded. Virgil's talking to Jack. And Jack's like, who are you? What are you doing here? And he's like, I've come to take you away, Jack. Weren't you going to build a house or something? And Jack's like, oh, yeah, I was. And Virgil's like, well, it's not too late. We can build a house here. Now, mind you, every victim that Jack's had, he's brought back to this freezer, and they've just basically been chilling there, no pun intended, this whole time. So this probably spans years. He's probably got 40 or 50 bodies in there, right?
Yeah.
So in this bizarro dark side room, he starts bringing the dead bodies in and decides to build himself a house out of dead guys in the side room, using a weird pulley system that just showed up. So he does that, and Virgil's like, oh, that's pretty impressive. You did a great job. And then Virgil goes inside, and then Jack follows him inside, and we see that there's a hole in the floor cut out. And then he's like, okay, well, that's probably the way that we're going to get out of here. So they duck into the little hole in the floor, and they start walking through the darkness. Apparently, there's a tunnel system under the building, or so we think. And to make a lot, this is where we kind of come full circle, because this is where the conversation at the beginning started. So now they're replaying the conversation that they had in the dark at the beginning of the movie, but now as we're watching them traverse these tunnels, and they have to they have to swim through parts, and they have to get under some rocks, and it gets all tight and enclosed. And in case you haven't figured it out, he's taking him to hell is what he's doing, right? So that's what happens. We get a recap of all the stuff that we already saw through these flashback type of things. And then we get to Jack's final destination, which is a bridge in hell that goes like across a big chasm, which is fine. I mean, it didn't look that bad
No.
for being hell.
Mhm.
I mean, there's like a big lava pit underneath the bridge, and the middle of the bridge is out. It's like fallen
Gone.
away.
Mhm.
So Virgil's like, okay, man, this is where you have to spend eternity. So here it is. And Jack's like, oh, well, okay, all right then. What's on the other side of this bridge? What's over there? And Virgil's like, well, that's actually a back door. And if you were to continue this path, you could get up and go to heaven if you wanted to, if the bridge wasn't out. So Jack's like, oh, well, has anybody ever just climbed around the chasm and made it to the other side of the bridge and got out that way? Virgil's like, no, nobody's ever done that. I don't recommend you try, by the way, because you're probably not going to make it. And Jack's like, oh, well, I'm in hell. I might as well take my chances.
Yeah.
So Virgil's like, and then he just kind of walks off. Jack then like starts trying to climb around the chasm to get to the other side.
Mhm.
He makes it about halfway across, and then he like his upper body strength gives out, and some of the rocks slip away, and he just falls straight down to the bottom of hell in the weird lava pit. And that's pretty much the end of your movie, buddy.
Yeah.
46 minutes is how long it took me to walk you through that, and that's not counting a lot of me and Buddy BSing about it. This is a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah. A lot of drawings.
A lot of drawings, a lot of I keep wanting to call him Matt Damon. Matt Damon. A lot of Matt Dillon like staring at things and just having awkward conversations. It's boring, man. I'm sorry. It's I guess it is technically a horror film because it involves a serial killer, so that's scary, and there are some disturbing scenes, but they are few and far between, and you're looking at hours between them. So I kind of feel about Lars von Trier the same way I feel about Rob Zombie. If you are okay with just watching a movie for the aesthetics, for the shots and like the color palette and things like that, then sure, go ahead. But if you're looking for like a story,
you really got to be in the mood for this one.
You got to have some time on your hands, dude. And you got to probably not like kids.
Yeah.
Because or ducklings for that matter, because there's some fucked up shit happening to both. I say you can probably skip The House That Jack Built, unless you're a Lars von Trier completionist.
Right.
Which I am probably not. I did see the rest of his movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say you pretty much are.
I guess I am, aren't I?
Yeah.
I think Melancholia was my favorite. That one's about the apocalypse. Antichrist, pretty heavy on the genital mutilation and hardcore penetration. Ambiguous ending, to say the least. Nymphomania 1 and 2. You can beat off to it. I think it's like a status symbol in Hollywood to be in a Lars von Trier movie. Like Nymphomania had just about everybody in it. Christian Slater, Shia LaBeouf, all those hot chicks. I don't remember their names. Melancholia had Alexander Skarsgård, Kirsten Dunst, Kiefer Sutherland, a bunch of other big names, So I think that probably has something to do with it. This one's a tough watch, though, Inmates. Jim, if you're still with us, what did you like so much about The House That Jack Built? Because I'm not really understanding the love for this movie. I think it got like 6.5 stars.
Really?
But I think that's just because it's a Lars von Trier movie.
That's true.
I think he could
beefed up the actors.
He could probably take a dump. Jim, what did you like so much about The House That Jack Built? You haven't even seen it, you son of a bitch!
Giving
You
us crap
haven't
for
even
it.
seen it. How dare you? I'm gonna come to your house and make you watch all 2.5 hours of this fuck story, sir.
Man.
It's actually not that. It's
okay.
It's just fucking long. I don't like Lars von Trier. But what are you giving us shit for, sir? God damn it.
This guy.
This fucking guy. You could probably skip this one. If you want to watch a better, if you want to get into Lars von Trier, I would recommend Melancholia first. That is a lot of the same though, but at least it has the apocalypse in it, and it's much more visually pleasing. Definitely skip Antichrist. It's again, it's the visuals, not big on the story.
Yeah.
And that's what we got here. All right, inmates. I think
All
we're going
right.
to take us a little break. We'll come back with some other stuff, huh?
Well, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Hey, so YouTube has just implemented a new policy, and we need to talk to you guys about this before we go any further. You'll notice our stream is a little bit different tonight. That's because YouTube has just implemented a policy in which we can no longer stream from mobile devices unless we have 1,000 subscribers. We are nowhere near 1,000 subscribers. We have a very long way to
A
go.
very long way.
I would much rather do this from my cell phone. So if you guys can like create 1,000 dummy accounts and just subscribe to this, that would be great.
Bot accounts.
Just bot the fuck out of us. We don't care. Or you could tell your friends. I don't think between the 4 of us that are still on, we have 1,000 friends.
Right.
But if you could just, tell your friends, have them subscribe, so that way we can do this from our phone, and I don't have to take any crap from my wife about using her laptop anymore. That would be great.
Hey-o!
Oh, now he shows
I
up.
know, now it's over.
Now he shows up.
Actually, it's okay, really.
Yeah. You know what, Tom Hardy? We'll see you next week.
That was a terrible
The
one.
house that Jack built, sir. Whew, I say no can do. Bad business. Unless you got, I mean, if you're like in a waiting room and you're looking at like at the DMV, it might it'll keep people from wanting to talk to you. Yeah, if you got that on your laptop. Well, I just watched a kid get his leg blown off from a sniper.
Mm-hmm.
See that?
Somebody threw a tit on a car.
Oh no. All right, guys. Well, I guess any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, anything we can address before we sign off for the week? Hopefully Monica will be back next week.
Yeah.
No promises though. Hopefully he'll be back next week.
Yeah.
No promises there either. Really, I'm all you got. I'll be here. Well, no, actually I probably won't, because if both of these guys don't show up, then I can't do the live show. So, well, I guess I could now.
Yeah, you could now.
I could do a solo live show now that I'm on the laptop. Maybe the laptop is better, actually. How do we look? Do we look better this week than we did?
Yeah, what do you guys think?
Is this better for you guys?
Is this
You like
better?
this?
Or do you like the mobile version on a phone better?
I feel like the video was better on the phone, but this is like more better for us because we can actually see your comments. We don't have to have somebody read them to us.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I guess we will kill the phone. Yeah. Inky Binky says phone.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
well,
Brianna.
Thanks, Breezy. We need 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
So let's
Tell your friends.
Yeah. Put out a memo at school or something.
Yeah. Tell the whole junior high.
Yeah. You're probably gonna get suspended for that when somebody listens to this. Anyway, thank you guys very much for joining us. We'll see you next week with another WTF movie, courtesy of Hammer.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.